What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I got an interesting topic video for you guys. Now, this idea was actually requested to me by one of my good friends, Jason from Facebook, and he basically wanted to know what were my top 10 favorite cartoons in overall history of mine. Now, this list was actually a little bit difficult for me to come up with because as I was kind of thinking through all the cartoons I usually like to watch, I was getting a little bit mixed up about what's considered an anime and what's considered a cartoon. But after a good day of thinking about it, I was able to come up with a solid list. So to start with my number 10, my number 10 is DuckTales. I really enjoyed watching DuckTales as a kid, and it was probably the single best series of characters outside of the old school original famous set of Disney characters like, Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. And not only that, it also was able to transfer to a very popular video game, if one of the all-time greatest, probably most popular video game songs of the Moon theme, and even recently being remastered and being able to play just as well. So it's simply the fact that an idea like DuckTales as a cartoon can be transferred into a game and still be able to hold some relevance even today after almost 20 years. So I think that idea of DuckTales makes it a great cartoon, which is something I would gladly enjoy watching even today. Number 9 on my list is Rockos Modern Life. Rockos Modern Life was my single favorite cartoon to watch as a kid during Nickelodeon's run when it was, actually about Nick Kids. And I think it was just the wackiness about it. The idea that a wallaby hangs out with a turtle and a steer, which many people thought he was a cow, and he would just go on all these crazy antics, whether it was going to fishing in the sea, to going a trip to Paris, to getting Philbert ready for his wedding, to going to the moon, to making some type of, perversion tape for his parents, or, no wait, Hef and Philbert filmed the video and they sent it off. So it's just the craziness of Rockos Modern Life that made it such a great show for me to watch. I just wish I actually had the entire season DVD collection. I know it's out there, but I just haven't had time to save up to buy it. Number 8 on my list is SpiderMan from Fox Kids. This was another one of those cartoons that you would watch that this was like what got me into the interest of Spider-Man as a comic book character. I'll be honest, I was never actually a big fan of comic books when I was younger, but this was probably the one reason that actually pushed me towards being a big fan of Spider-Man, which is why to this day he still remains my all-time favorite solo Marvel superhero. And it went over a lot of really good story elements. It showed off really what type of character Peter Parker was. I think my overall favorite episode was when he was dealing with the Venom symbiote, and definitely when Carnage showed up. Those were some of the craziest episodes. But it's just a matter of fact that it told the Spider-Man story in its basic form. It didn't try to focus too much on the emotional side or kind of the horror of all this, kind of like how the movies are being pushed towards today. It was a solid cartoon series which just focused on both the good and bad aspects of being Spider-Man. And I don't think any other cartoon series about Spider-Man has been able to pull off quite as well. Number 7 on my list is The Simpsons. The Simpsons is an old school cartoon classic. I mean, it's been around since before even I was alive. And the reason why I would put it on this list is simply because of the nostalgic value. It does, to this day, kind of hold a really good place in pop culture, and it's still running. I think its only main flaw is that it sometimes has difficulty really coming up with original ideas. I mean, as another cartoon famously stated, it's like, what hasn't The Simpsons done at this point in time? So it's still good. And I would even say in many ways, The Simpsons family is very similar to my own family, especially when we were a lot younger. I mean, so if you know the relationship between Homer and Bart Simpson, and you have a good idea of what my dad used to do to me. Well, maybe not that extreme, but kind of close. Number 6 on my list is Family Guy. Family Guy kind of has the same elements as The Simpsons. I think it's just done in a much more funnier environment. Its jokes are funnier, it's much more relevant to the times, and it's much more creative. Especially when they did the reference episodes to Star Wars. I think that was completely unique. I hadn't seen anything like that, and it was probably some of the most entertaining television I've ever seen. And Stewie, in my opinion, is probably one of the greatest fictional characters ever made in literature. I mean, just his objectives and how he perceives things and how intelligent he is at times. It's just anytime Stewie is on the screen, all the other characters disappear. My attention is focused just on him. Number 5 on my list is X-Men the Animated Series. Now, this kind of did the same thing for the X-Men that the SpiderMan animated show did for Spider-Man. This is why the X-Men is my all-time favorite superhero team. And this really established. Now, in my opinion, what made it slightly better was that it actually went into depth with some of the main storylines that are actually told in comic books. So it actually went over the Days of Future's Past storyline. It actually went into the Dark Phoenix saga, and it went over a lot of story elements that I really wish would be turned into live action, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it's just the fact that it's actually outside of Spider-Man, which it takes a comic book character and then it tries to make its own thing. X-Men can do the same thing, but actually have references to the actual main comic book storyline and actually get me into knowing more about those storylines. So that's why that's on this list. Number 4 on my list is kind of a tie. I really couldn't think much. I couldn't decide between these two, but it's a dead solid tie between Justice League and Batman Beyond. The reason why the Justice League and Batman Beyond are simply, in my opinion, they kind of act as, let's say, kind of sequels to another anime series, which I won't talk about quite yet, but this actually does. Justice League actually does the same thing that X-Men does. I just think it does it slightly better, although in a whole, I still think the X-Men is a much better team than Justice League. And they definitely do show you how the team changed and how they interact with each other. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we want to see in our future Justice League movie. And so, if Warner Brothers is paying attention to any video like this, they really need to look at their animated series and kind of use it as a blueprint. Like, that's the type of environment you want to create. I mean, I understand that they kind of want to base it around the Man of Steel world, but once you finally get to that level of Justice League, this is how I want it to feel. You may not want to use all these characters the way that they're used in the animated show, but this is the model. And going into Batman Beyond, what I really liked about Batman Beyond was it was actually able to do something that not a lot of people thought was possible, and that was really create a rich environment storyline in which Bruce Wayne is not Batman. Someone else has taken the mantle, which is why I'm a firm believer, and I would be perfectly happy if they did a Batman live action movie where Bruce is not Batman. It's proven that other people can wear the cape and cowl and still do the Legend of the Dark Knight justice, and I think Terry McGinnis would make is a great Batman. Now don't get me wrong, Bruce Wayne is always going to be the single greatest Batman, but Terry McGinnis would make a very good second Batman. In many ways, to me, he's even better than Dick Grayson did playing as Batman. Number 3 on my list is Futurama. Futurama is simply awesome. It is a great premise of a guy from our century being transported to year 3000 and him having to go through all these crazy experiments, dealing with aliens, going to planets, going on these crazy adventures to Planet Express, these great set of characters, all these... It's just creativity. It's taking a simple idea, building on top of it, and then making it entertaining in ways that not other cartoons of its time, or even since, have been able to really replicate. It's kind of an original idea, simply done to the fullest. Number 2 on my list is South Park. I really love South Park because of how fresh it always feels to me. The one thing that South Park manages to do ahead of every other cartoon is stay relevant. The one factor of this is that as the times and the years go by, South Park is always able to take what's popular today and incorporate it into the show itself and really show how these 4 characters of Kyle, Kenny, Stan, and Cartman react to it. And so do the other characters. And so that is why it's number 2, is that it stays fresh because it actually manages to keep track of how things are now. So if you go back and you watch like early episodes and you see references to things in the past, then you can tell like, oh, so that was what was popular at the time that this episode was made. And you can't really do that with any other cartoon. I mean, Family Guy has done it before, but they've always been late to the party, and Simpsons has just kind of done it on its own time, not really seeming to care. So that's why South Park is number 2. But without a doubt, my all-time favorite cartoon that I ever liked watching, past, present, or future, will always be Batman the Animated Series. There is no kidding around. Batman the Animated Series, perfect for me. Made me the Batman lover that I am today. Everything about it was amazing. Voice acting, Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, the two single best, in my opinion, cartoon voice actors of all time. It went over so many great origin stories. I mean, we finally got the origin story of Harley Quinn with Mad Love. We also got a reimagining of Mr. Freeze as how he was kind of just destroyed in Batman and Robin. And just everything about it is perfect. I mean, this is like the one cartoon that I absolutely would show my kids. Like, we're going to have one day where I'm going to buy all the seasons. We're going to sit down. I'm going to strap their asses down to a couch, and we're going to watch every single episode back to back, so they will love Batman just as much as I do. And there is no other cartoon on this list that I would love to have an experience like that other than Batman. And with that, those are my top 10 favorite cartoons that I enjoyed watching. But now tell me, what are some of your all-time favorite cartoons? Please tell me in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to track for me in my future movie and video game reviews. And if you like, you can also press one of the links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter or friend me on Facebook, and I will be sure to friend you and follow you back. Like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.